Okay, it's 6:30 p.m. and we're going to call this meeting for the Urban Design Commission for June 11th, 2014 is called to order. Can we get roll call, please?
Mr. Sawhill?
Here.
Mr. Tybor?
Here.
Ms. Sullivan? Ms. Emerton?
Here.
Mr. Winchester? Ms. Ream?
Here.
Mr. Condon?
Here.
Mr. Leonetti?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion for approval for the minutes for this evening? The minutes are for April 9th, 2014. And is there a second? The minutes have been motioned for approval by Commissioner Tybor and seconded by Commissioner Condon. Are there any corrections or discussion of the minutes? Okay. The minutes are approved as they stand. So this is a special meeting this evening, and because we're just doing the art, we don't need to do any disclosures. So I think you are up for
Thank you for meeting on a special occasion. I really appreciate it. When we try to integrate art, especially in the Girdwood project, it's really important that we be timely. This project the floor is going to be poured in August, so the sooner I can get the project through review and address any concerns, we can get contracting. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Can you say your name and spell it?
Oh, sorry. So my name is Angela Demma, A-N-G-E-L-A, Demma, D-E-M-M-A. I'm the Curator of Public Art for the Municipality of Anchorage. Did you want me to?
Sorry, this is new. So I think what the plan is if you want to just kind of talk us through the art,
Sure.
and then we'll go over any questions. And then what I was told is we are going to do a motion to accept, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And that way, if they need a motion, we have it. So is that all?
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds great. Okay, so the first two projects in front of you are from Girdwood, K through 8. They just started construction at the end of May, and the two projects that you're seeing in front of you are floor projects, embedded artwork into the floor. One will be for the commons area of the school, the other for the hallways. Starting with Sheila Wine's project, Ebb and Flow. That one is stainless steel and stained concrete. So she'll use stains for her design as well as the embeds. And it's meant to resemble the Turnagain arm. And then Shayla and Jim's project, Shayla Dobson and Jim Dalt's project, in front of you it says aluminum embeds. That was changed. I've done some research, and aluminum and concrete don't go well together and actually corrode, the metal corrodes, so they've agreed to do stainless steel on theirs. There has been 2 concerns brought up by other entities. One from Lee Holmes of the Art Advisory Committee, who was worried about slipping on Shayla and Jim's piece because of the design being long strides like you're skiing. They were worried that those long tracks might actually be a slipping hazard. So we're actually meeting tomorrow to talk about that at length and how the whole project will come together with the architects and as well as the people pouring the floor, and all the entities will be their project managers and such, so that we can all be on the same page and start the communication. And then the other concern was a maintenance concern about the difference between an embedded die and a surface die. And people were worried because this was a surface die that it'll have a shorter length. I'm not sure we can do much about that at this point because it's a definite cost differential, but we'll be talking about that tomorrow as well. And that concern was brought up by the Public Art Committee. I don't know if you want to talk about, maybe we'll start with Sheila Wine's proposal first and see if there's any concerns you all have with that project.
Do we have any questions for Angela? Ms. Dema? Nothing? Okay. I don't think we have anything on the Sheila Wine.
Okay. So then the other floor project is the Shayla Dobson and Jim Dalt proposal, and you should have that in front of you as well. Are there additional concerns about that one?
So why would the snow track footprint be a slipping hazard? If is it solid piece of steel or is it a grid of?
So what happens is usually there's what's called a chair. So there's a bottom piece, and then the embeds are, in this case, 4 inches deep. And so those stainless steel will be continuous long pieces of steel. And the floor will, so the cement will be poured. It'll be then ground down in a few successive grinding sessions or whatever. And then so that surface will be even so that the stainless and the cement or concrete are one level, they're even. But there was that worry, so we'll be looking at, is that the right material with that design? We'll also be looking at, is there something we can do to the surface of it to stipple that so it has a little more traction.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dema, it seems to me that you're going to run into a maintenance problem if you introduce some kind of texture to the steel.
Yeah. Then it'll pool or water.
Right, I
when
could
it's being
imagine
cleaned.
some kind of striations cut into the stainless, but then it's going to be a dirt collector.
Right. So that might not be a good solution.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I guess we can move on to the other project. So this project is over at the King Career Center, and the proposal that was selected by the art selection jury is by Rebecca Brubaker. The piece, as you see in front of you, are a number of murals, and those murals are made of construction materials. Sometimes there'll be different successive portraits of different students in the school. The first will be from carpentry, and we'll have those tools and materials that are used to make that portrait. The next one will be about electricity construction, and we'll have those materials, some more wires and things to make up that portrait. And then the third piece will be, I can't remember the third one.
Looks like maybe carpentry.
What was it?
Carpentry?
Oh, it was carpentry, construction, welding. Welding was the third. So welding materials as well as the tools used in that material. She also knows that nothing can be more than 3 inches from the wall, and she's planning on using an epoxy and also addressing any sharp edges by filing them. We did have one concern from the art selection jury, and that was how she was going to attach those pieces to the backing board, and she sent me the information about using an epoxy. She hasn't told me what type of epoxy, and I need to follow through on that and talk to her more in detail to make sure she's thinking permanent, that this is going to work permanently, and that we have some kind of warranty from the company if that's her case.
Are there any, Commissioner Condon?
Yes. The backer board that's mentioned here, I'm concerned about what that material might be that these objects are going to be adhered to. Epoxy, I don't believe works well with a cementitious fiber board, a wonder board kind of material. It works well with grout and mortar, those sorts of things, but epoxy, I think, is going to be problematic, and I'm pretty sure it's mentioned that grout resin or silicone may be used. I don't think silicone is going to work at all, trying to bind metal to a cementitious backer board. It might work if they're using as a backer material something like, I don't know, glass or metal, but I think that issue needs to be clarified. There needs to be some guarantees that these objects are going to be firmly and permanently attached to whatever backer material there is, especially when I look at these pictures of the dikes and the vice grips and the pliers. Those at velocity could be, quite dangerous if it gets out of hand.
Right. That makes sense. She does talk about a solid backer board with a 4-inch walnut frame, but she doesn't say what that backer board is.
Exactly.
Just to ask, would plywood or Medex, like a non-formaldehyde plywood, work?
A plywood might be doable. I would recommend doing some experiments. Polyester casting resin would be a good way to embed metal objects and adhere it to the wood. The wood would have to be dimensionally stable, so it can't just be a solid piece of wood that's going to expand and contract. But, I think this whole issue of adhering the objects is a major concern, and, you need some guarantees that these objects are going to remain in place.
Right.
And a further concern, she mentions using a resin. Is this going to be, epoxy resin, polyester, whatever? And she goes on to say that I would like to include the students in this project. I would not like to see students handling materials like epoxy resins, polyester resin, any of these adhesives. If you look at the material safety data sheet, they are, fairly toxic chemicals, and you get them on your skin through osmosis. They get into your bloodstream, cause liver problems, and any number of health problems.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm thinking maybe a model might be our best bet, too, having her do an actual mock-up of it so we can see that it actually works. And
you may want to consider embedding the objects, submerging the objects completely in.
She did mention that.
Clear casting resin.
Okay.
And just to note, 6:45, Jerry Winchester has arrived to our meeting, so welcome. And
Thanks for coming.
Commissioner Leonetti, did you have some?
Yeah, I just had a couple kind of thoughts, I guess. I didn't gather from the description if this is like an interpretive type of a display, like the interaction between the person standing there is just visual, or if it's supposed to be like the artist wants them to touch the objects. I think that it'd be good if you could use a glass over the top of it that's the shatterproof glass to prevent a lot of the conversation that we're talking about, people getting hurt and epoxies, and I mean, if it's just an enclosed box, but I don't know what the interaction was intended from the artist.
Right. I think she intended people to touch it, and that's why she was planning on sanding down sharp edges and fully submersing the objects in that epoxy. Not sure if that addresses.
It does. No, that's helpful. Thanks. I am a bit on the other side of the fence than Mr. Condon about the harmfulness of the epoxies. I think that it's important that we teach our children that there's ways to build things, and that the earlier they can understand it, the better. I mean, obviously, we don't want to give them some battery acid without any, but we want them to understand the processes that they could potentially be going through if they get old, or when they get older, and if they decide to go down that path of that type of construction and dealing with those materials. Just saying that it's going to be harmful and you shouldn't touch it, I think, is a good defensive way to not get sued over things. But I think that it's really important to have interactions with those that type of material, and if the artist is trying to teach that through this process, I think that's great.
Sounds fair. There'll be a limited number of kids too, so it might be a better time to make sure they have safety equipment for everybody and follow the MSDS form. I think that might address the concern as well as teach them.
Thank you.
It'll be an after-school project as well, so I think fumes will be less a problem as well.
I only had a question. There was the budget she put in here. There's insurance on there. Does that cover as it ages, or what is that insurance for? I'm just curious.
The insurance is a compensation liability for the artist in case anybody gets hurt within the first year of the project. Yeah, and then the program is liable. So, the city, therefore.
Have any additional questions on either one of these?
No, I didn't mean compensation. I meant commercial liability. Sorry.
Oh.
I said the wrong word.
Okay. Can we get a motion to accept both proposals? We have a motion to accept from Commissioner Tiber, and can we get a second? Are you locked out? We have a second from Commissioner Sahil. Is there any discussion, any further discussion? Okay, I think both proposals are accepted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, as we don't have anything else on the consent agenda, the regular agenda, or any reports, do we have any comments from the commissioners before we close this meeting and then do our practice? No comments? Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Actually, I had a question on the process. So we close the meeting and then we talk about a test case?
Yes, that's what I was told. Oh. Yeah, because we didn't need to have it on the record. Am I not correct? No? Okay, so.
Oh, cool. All right. Great.
We have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Tiber and a second from Commissioner Leonetti. So I believe we are adjourned. It's the fastest meeting ever.